Good afternoon. We welcome you to the City Council Work Session meeting on Tuesday, April 21st. Our mayor is not here today. He is representing the city at another meeting. So we have a handful of presentations today. Our first one is an update regarding the Bell Tower Lofts project. Daryl?
Thank you. Members of City Council, City Staff, Daryl High from High Properties. I'm going to show a quick PowerPoint on the project and give you a brief update. Is it just down? Oh, there we go. So we're going to start off with a few photos back at the origination of the project. This was right after we got involved. Most of you have seen these pictures. This was the condition of the property after the derecho and when we purchased it. A preliminary timeline and some additional photos to the right. We're commencing in August of 24. We did save the bell. The bell is currently being stored off-site for safekeeping, even though, as I joked with Councilmember Jensen, that you can't steal it because it weighs about 800 pounds. So this is just a recap of kind of our request amount from the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. We originally requested about 3.99 million. We were awarded 2.595 million. There was a non-award amount of 1,404,000. We are requesting to IEDA to reconsider. We do have some units that we were able to add to the project from the original submittal. We were awarded 30 units. We ended up building 55. So we're going to request the city endorse us or endorse that request back to IEDA, and they know this is coming. In fact, this last week they did grant us an extension on the Brownfield award. I've had a lot of conversations with them, a lot of conversations just about this project in general. It's probably the most difficult project that I've undertaken in what will be 38 and a half years next month. These are some photos that were taken back when Director Durham was on site. I believe a number of city staff were through the building when it was in this condition of being framed. These photos are probably now about 5 weeks old. All of the interior of the project is now drywalled, mudded, taped, and sanded, and being trimmed. I'm happy to report one of the most common asked questions we get about the project is where's the stained glass? Stained glass has been successfully reconditioned and it's all on site and it's in crates. We've decided that that'll be almost the last thing that happens is that stained glass will be uncrated and put back into the windows, but it is there and it is in good condition. And we're very happy about that. So, yeah, like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the project, but we're proceeding and it is labor of love, that's for sure. But the units, now that they have some drywall in, and invite anyone that would like to come see it as it gets along, they're really starting to look like something like a house does. As you get it drywalled, then you can start to see how it's really going to function. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Well, the one question that'll come up by people in this room and maybe by the public is, when will you start taking applications for the rooms, and when will they be ready for somebody to occupy them?
So we will start with, there's some community development block grant rules related to the derecho lease up that starts 90 days before the initial unit. We'll start that probably in May, thinking delivery is July, August.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've already had a number of people. Every time it's in the news, we get people contacting us asking about, can they get on a list? It's a little early to start taking people's name on the list, and we
Okay.
do have that CDBG requirement. Once we get that, I'm hopeful that we can get quite a few people through there. This is a unique project in as much as all of the units that are not in the Sunday school wing are completely different. So it's not just your standard rack and run 12-plex where all the units are very similar. So we're going to name them. Some of them have already been kind of affectionately. There's a couple of them that have the treehouse name. There's the actual bell tower unit. There's the sky lofts that have the big windows and the upper floor. You see one of those in the second photo there. That's one of the sky lofts window, and then that's another unit looking out towards the rose window.
One other question that comes up quite often is, will there be a date or opportunity for a public tour prior to occupancy?
I haven't thought about that. We probably can do that.
A lot of people want to see
Sure, an open house.
what
Sure.
it's going to look like
Yeah.
inside. So a lot of curiosity about this project, as you can tell.
Sure. Yeah, we probably can make that happen.
Thanks. Any questions? Other questions? Grant?
Yeah, Daryl, just these pictures, I mean, I'm thinking back to when we toured it before all the work started.
Yes, sir.
You've come a long ways. Just one detail question and one general overarching kind of project question. For the stained glass, when that's reset into their locations, will they have externally a separate protective covering to prevent damage?
Yeah, so what you see there, and if you drive by, what you see is the new windows that have been installed that'll act as the real window, and the stained glass actually acts as more of an accent. It doesn't serve a lot of purpose. So there's new windows. I haven't been over there yet today. I was in Des Moines earlier, but the louvers and so forth, and the bell tower should be going in, but the windows that are there now are new.
Okay.
Those are brand new. And so the stained glass gets set into those after it's been reconditioned.
Okay. All right. That's good, because I know a lot of people that were members of the church when it was active, have expressed to me, gee, well, we hope that the stained glass is protected in some way.
It will be protected by the new windows, and it also is protected by the reconditioning efforts that have taken place to them.
So the kind of general question I have, and I'm thinking in terms of both the interior work to be done and the exterior work, can you give us a little characterization of the key critical path items that need to be finished internal and external to the building?
Internal is probably easier. We're in trim mode right now. We're installing cabinets and getting ready to trim. I don't know that any real trim is installed yet. The cabinets, quite a few of the cabinets have been installed. Okay. So that means we're finished with the mainline mechanicals. We'll come back and do finished mechanical grids, light boxes, and so forth. So that's the inside. The fitness room, the office, all of that's looking really good. We're working on those main areas there where we've got those big vaults. We're working on getting those all finished up. So that's the inside. The outside, we've got the decks to put on, the metal decks. We've got to cut some new windows in the stair towers, and those items will probably start. Well, they can start pretty quick. We were over there. We're over there a lot more right now, making final kind of decisions, logistical decisions from the plans. I think you'll start to see some of the outside really starting to take shape in the next probably 60 days.
All right. Thanks. That's useful to know. Thanks for that.
All right. Thank you, Daryl.
Okay. Thanks.
Good luck.
Steve?
Oh, wait, sorry. Gage, you got a question?
Yes, sir.
Kim Downs is available on Zoom, and it looks like she has something to say as well. If Gage wants to go first, and then we can have Kim speak.
Up to you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
So Gage first,
No.
then Kim.
No question, but I wanted to just say, I know from hearing from multiple people on this project and touring this project and hearing and knowing from my time writing about the first part of the process when we were just looking at what the church looked like at the beginning. I know it's been really challenging. I know a restoration project like this is really expensive, but I just want to say to like everyone that's been involved, like thank you, because the restoration of these like historic buildings is rare. I believe it's really important, and to be able to take the time and take the care to do this, I think means a lot to a lot of the community. So just thank you to you and your team and your partners for this.
I appreciate that. And a lot of those things will be passed on to all the men and women that worked inside the church. There's been a lot of craftsmen, spent a lot of hours. I don't think I have I think that the Conlin man hours alone were over 7,000 man hours. And those were not hours that were in the scope of like they're going to do the trim or that's just fixing everything that needed to be fixed along the way. But I appreciate that.
Okay. Kim, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Gage and Daryl really summed up what I wanted to ensure that was said tonight, and that is today I heard someone describe the church as Marion's skyscraper. It's the tallest building in our community, and it has a lot of attraction to it, not only historical, but it is a building that is a landmark. And when Daryl talks about the labor of love, those are real words and the work that had to be done. And as Daryl kind of showed, the budget and what that looks like, this project, Daryl and his team, Conwin's team, just to get it to a point where you could start working on it, they put in a little over $1 million to get it to that point. So in continuing to help them bridge that gap through the state of Iowa, and the mayor and myself and Ryan and whoever the appropriate people are, will happily make those connections with Debbie Durham and her team to help continue to support this project.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, if people are driving towards Marion from First Avenue or Billershurry Road, it does stand out in the Marion skyline. So thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next we have a presentation from the Iowa Department of Transportation regarding Highway 100, Collins Road from 31st Street to 44th Street. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, Your Honor. So I just wanted to introduce Erin Stone. She may be newer to this council, but she is not new to the city of Marion. She not only is a resident of Marion, she's worked on the mini roundabout at 10th and Central. And then she also, when she worked for the city of Cedar Rapids, was integral as part of the Tower Terrace team, making that C to Albernet portion. So without ado, I'll let her come up, and she is the DOT TISMO engineer, and she can explain what that means.
Go ahead, Erin.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for the invite here to speak tonight here, Mike, on this. TISMO, so if you've worked in public government, you know that if there isn't an acronym, we haven't worked hard enough on this. So TISMO is an acronym. It is Transportation Systems Management and Operation Engineer. So I do work out of District 6, which is our headquarters for that is located in Cedar Rapids. However, my area is actually the eastern third-ish of the state. So I work on a lot of statewide traffic, transportation, operations initiatives, as well as some of the statewide initiatives that go on here with traffic and safety. So yeah, we'll keep going here. Purpose for tonight's presentation is threefold here: to summarize the safety and operational concerns along Highway 100, highlight some recommendations from the DOT from the Highway 100 memo, as well as inform about some upcoming safety solutions along Highway 100. I'm going to be saying Highway 100 a lot here, so apologies in advance. Quick overview of the corridor in case you are unaware here. Highway 100 is a DOT-owned roadway. However, we do share jurisdiction of this roadway with 3 different jurisdictions. Cedar Rapids on the west side here, closer to First Avenue, Marion in the middle, and Lynn County over on the east side. These shared jurisdictional roadways, collaboration is very important with those entities just to provide that safe, consistent, and operational corridor to get roadway users, from one side to the other and get them to where they need to be going. Also help with collaborating with those in order to get that peak operational performance along the corridor. The memo that was written here was initiated in one of our quarterly meetings that we host with the City of Marion, as well as many of the other cities within our area, just in response to some of the operational and safety concerns that were noted along this corridor, one of them being the fatality in 2024 on the 44th Street intersection here. So not only that, but the continued growth and urbanization here on the east side here of Marion as well. So a little background on that. Some existing characteristics. There was a project that was just finished last week on Highway 100. Please ignore that project for just a minute as I go through this presentation. Highway 100 is a 4-lane divided highway. It's 55-mile-per-hour posted east of East Post Road. There is a concrete median there in the center of it. Muner Road is a 2-lane municipal road. T intersection, stop controlled. There is a very small right turn lane bay from Muner Road, as well as a left turn bay from Highway 100 to get onto Muner Road. From Muner Road to 44th Street, there is a vertical curve, which has a little bit of sight distance issues from Muner Road, as well as Muner and 44th are very closely spaced together. They are less than 1,200 feet between each other, which has posed for some difficulties in this area. 44th Street is a 2-lane municipal road, another T intersection that's stop controlled. Again, another little right turn bay from 44th Street and a left turn bay off of Highway 100 to get onto 44th Street. I'm going to go through some of the data of what was looked at within the memo and kind of give a quick summary of that. Try not to get too in the weeds on some of this, but reviewed the data for crash patterns using the Iowa Crash Analysis Tool, which is the consolidated database of all of the crash information within the state. You can see here that Muner Road in a 5-year period of 2021 to 2025, the major cause of crashes at that intersection was the running stop sign and failure to yield right away. Again, another great acronym from many different cases here. These are from stop sign on the local road, as well as the left turning movement from Highway 100 to Muner Road. That was the major cause in this. So these resulted mostly in broadside crashes, and those are T-bone type crashes. Those are some of the most dangerous types of crashes just due to that intersection angle and how those do occur there. When reviewing these crashes, in this case, a lot of these are due to, in this intersection, vehicles not being able to correctly judge approaching vehicle speed on 100 and their ability to not be able to safely judge those gaps in traffic where they are able to cross the 2 lanes of traffic into the median and make that left turn movement. 44th Street, similar, slightly different, but their main crash pattern cause was that running stop sign and the failure to yield from stop signs or left turn movements. Again, those are those broadside type crashes. It did have a secondary on this, which was following too close. And 44th Street in 2024 is the intersection that had the fatality. So that is included in this total crash count here. This intersection, same theories for this too. It is some of that high speed, failure to be able to judge safe gaps in traffic in order to make those left turn movements. But then this follows on with the follow too close, which is those rear end crashes. So those are due to potentially driver distraction or differential speeds that people are going. So that is coming up and slowing down to make those turning movements, and person behind you doesn't see that and gets into that rear end crash there too. Another source of data we use is called the potential for crash reduction, the PCR. This is a crash reduction model that helps us and statewide recognize high priority safety locations It is a statistic regression mean model. Don't like statistics, but that gets into that. You'll notice that the data that we get from this is always backwards because we are taking each intersection or segment of road and comparing it with all of the like segments or sections or intersections of roadway in the state. So being a category of a 1 or a 3 is not a great thing in this case. You can see here that Muner Road has a high PCR for all crashes as well as severe crashes. It is number 1 in that category for statewide. And 44th Street here has a high all crash rating, and it says negligible. However, remember that fatality on 44th was in 2024, and this data is always 2 years behind. So when our new data comes out that includes the 2024, I'm guessing that this would be a high PCR level for this. So what does this tell us? This tells us that our safety and operational issues that we are noticing, these are real. These, we are showing these. But it also means that these intersections are strong candidates for DOT safety funding, which is generally federal dollars in our case too, as well as some of the state funding. Next, we'll go through the operational analysis. This is where we model existing traffic with the actual intersection. So here I've got comparison of your existing intersection for both the existing traffic, so today's traffic, as well as modeled out 20 years in the future with pending growth. That turned out to be about a 0.5% increase in traffic annually. You can see here that it looks pretty good for both AM and the peak hour traffic for both intersections. However, when we start adding in that 20-year, you can see there's some noticeable declines. Something this does not take, this takes into account pure traffic volume, and what the intersection is doing is it's not going to take into account some of those sight distance issues that I've already noted too. And then something else too, this is just overall intersection. In the report, I do go break down by which leg. So some of those look worse depending on how the level of service is being calculated for each of those portions. So where do we go from here using some of this information? Well, we're looking at incremental safety solutions. So taking this data and doing something with it to help solve a problem. So first with Muner Road, due to that PCR level, the crash and the traffic data, we really need a solution to reduce the chances of those broadside crash types, just in general. It is the most dangerous type. Those have the highest rate of fatality due to the impact angle on it. So some solutions to do here would be convert Muner Road to a right-in, right-out access, which means closing the median with a concrete median. So no left turns would be allowed. That way there are no chances really of having that T-bone type crash at this intersection. For 44th Street, the solutions also need to help reduce the T-bone type accidents, but as well as those follow too close, those rear end type crashes. So 44th Street, adding that right turn bay from Highway 100 to 44th Street, that will help get that traffic moving at a high rate of speed into a different lane to help slow down and make that maneuver. An offset right turn lane also will create more sight distance for those vehicles southbound on 44th Street. So making that left turn movement, you're getting that traffic out of the way and you can see beyond those cars that are slowing down and see both lanes of traffic better, which will help navigate and judge the oncoming cars at that point too. Also, to increase left turn lane storage length here along Highway 100, this is the project that actually just finished last week, so hopefully we'll start to see some notable declines in the follow too close and some of those broadside crashes because of that increased length here as well. Some next steps, support the 2026 construction project on Highway 100. Thank you. That has been successfully completed on that. We were able to use HSIP funding, which is Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. That is federal dollars that we as a DOT do need to justify and apply ourselves to be able to use that funding. The next project is next year, and this is including that Muner Road median closure, but it also will be partnering with the city on that one. We are working on doing that offset right turn lane. The city applied and was awarded almost $500,000 in TSIP funding, which is traffic safety improvement program funding, which is state funding. And we were able to include that project onto the Muner Road closure project. We are also including paved shoulders on that project, which also does help with the safety aspect of that project. That is a project that's a few years in the making. It is federal funding that we are using, so there is a long process for that. And that is something that we've been working for with a lot of our quarterly meetings in partnership with the city on that. The next stuff we're looking at, there are additional future safety improvement items on Highway 100. This is a multi-jurisdictional corridor, and we do meet with all the cities and entities along this. And there's some other partnership ideas that we work with those. But beyond those spot improvements, the report also went over a couple future longer-term items here. First one being retrofit or upgrade some of the traffic signals that are along this corridor. So that can mean upgrade in detections, that could be cabinet hardware or updating timing so that it is a more predictable approach through this entire corridor. A lot of times that's being done with a fiber project or with manual timing. And there's a gold star on this because you are later today talking about an ICAP grant, which has that fiber element to help be able to do that with some of your signals. So gold star for that one. Nice job. The next thing is protected only left turn phasing at all signals. So new research last year that came out of Iowa State that is now nationwide and has been added into a lot of traffic safety is at high speed traffic signals. So those over 45, 50 mile per hour posted speeds, it's being realized that many drivers and roadway users are not able to judge that speed of oncoming traffic. So when you're turning left, you think it looks good, but your sight approach on that is skewed. And so you're getting a lot of those broadside crashes because you're taking a risk and you're trying to get through, those multiple lanes of traffic. So by turning those permissive phases, when it's green ball or flashing yellow, those are permissive phases, to protected only, which is just the left or just the green arrow only phase, that will help remove some of those broadside crashes because they are turning only in a dedicated phase for that left turn movement. So that could help with some other areas along Highway 100, both within Marion and in other jurisdictions. Another thing is, as Marion continues to urbanize within this section, a corridor speed limit review could be warranted. Right now it's 55. As this continues to urbanize, maybe we should look at lowering that. That is something to consider in the future as more urbanization does occur. And last is 44th Street intersections geometrics change. With the increase in urban and development out in this area, it's very likely that traffic is going to get to a point where it's going to be so much during peak hours, especially PM peak hours along there, that finding those acceptable gaps in traffic from 44th Street will be very difficult at, which will lead to a lot of buildup and bottleneck along the 44th Street intersection. So sometime in the future, when that traffic is big enough, maybe there is an intersection change. So, signals could be considered, roundabout, other methods of intersections. Again, in the future, but that is something to consider on this corridor as well. Quick wrap up, we summarized some safety operational concerns, highlighted some of those recommendations from the memo, and informed about a couple of upcoming safety solutions here on Highway 100. So some of these improvements that have just finished or planned for next year and other futuristic improvements will significantly reduce severe crashes, improve the traffic flow, as well as create that predictable corridor as Marion continues to develop here. DOT values partnership we have with the City of Marion, as well as our other entities in this area to help make this and meet safety, federal, and your local roadway safety goals. So thank you.
Well, Aaron, we appreciate the gold star, first of all. That's very nice. So you went through the presentation. You answered, I think, all the questions about the why, the how, and the when. So as you were presenting things, I had questions in my mind, and you basically answered those as you went along. So a lot of good changes along Highway 100 to make it safer. There's a lot of traffic on that stretch. So we appreciate your update, and the work that you do with us. So questions? Grant, go ahead first.
Yeah, Aaron, I just want to echo Mayor Pro Tem's comment. Appreciate the work that's gone into this because I know I've suffered some challenging situations at both of those intersections. I do have a couple of questions. If we can skip back to the diagram that shows the detailed changes for 44th and Munier.
Sure.
Oh, okay, that's the one I'm really thinking about. So if I understand this right, on Highway 100, eastbound traffic will not be able to get to Munier Road, correct?
That's correct.
So in that modification, it would seem to me that people who would normally want to access that area of Marion would have to make a left-hand turn further to the west at its 35th?
31st.
31st?
Signalized intersection, 31st. Yep.
Okay. Or go down to 44th.
That's correct.
Okay. So that's the logic. We're fundamentally changing the whole traffic pattern into that section of the city. Okay, that makes sense to me. This may be more a question for Mike, but I'm curious, and I'm not even going to ask this with the right phraseology, so I apologize. But in terms of representation of these projects in our CIP, how does this change our expectations for funding profile? What's the sharing? What's the sharing source of funding and the sharing percentages that we need to anticipate? See, I told you I wasn't going to ask that, right?
Good. We got it. We got it. Oh, I have a slide on that actually. Okay, so the second, I don't know, chunk down, the project starting next year, which is bidding in October. DOT is using HSIP funding for the shoulders and the closing of Munier Road. And the city was awarded just about $500,000 in TSIP funding, which is state funding for roadway safety. So that is being represented on yours. So there is no match per se on that. However, it's only a 500,000 or 400 and change maximum. So anything for that turn lane that goes above and beyond that portion, the city would then be responsible for. You can answer those too. I just know too much about it.
And what's great is because of the partnership that we have with DOT is rather than have us bid it and have a contractor out there and then them have a contractor that's trying to work in the same spot, we're partnering on the project. So we have one contractor out there with one contract. We just basically take the TSIP money that we receive from the state and give it back to the state.
Which I know doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
Okay.
That doesn't make
But
sense.
that way, the project can be done all at once. Hopefully there's some savings by having more work done rather than less work done. So the only thing is like what Aaron's saying is if that offset rate were to come in higher than we expect it to, then it would come out of our CIP as local option sales tax or whatever we work with finance where that gap comes from.
Okay, so some variable cost exposure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And something unique about that project is TSIP is generally done, engineering is generally on, the locals side on that. But because DOT already had a couple projects in this area, it made sense for us. We are doing the engineering, we are doing the construction admin. So it's very low cost at this point.
Okay.
It's big coupon for you guys.
Okay.
And the good thing with TSIP is that's one of the few funding mechanisms, at least for us, that does not have a match to it.
Yes.
So if it only costs exactly what we asked for in the grant, we don't have to pay a dime.
Or less. Yeah.
Or less.
Okay. Well, and the fact that you're basically going with one fundamental mobilization to do the project obviously is a cost saver too. So, okay, thanks. You answered my
Yeah.
questions.
Oh, they were good questions.
Yeah, that extended turn lane on 44th Street is going to be a huge benefit because we did that on 31st Street and that made a big, big difference. I used both those intersections a lot. And all of a sudden having that extra space to slow down in and turn left makes a big, big difference. So all the designs to me are very beneficial and add to the safety of our citizens and people that are driving in the area. Any questions by anybody else? All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, just one more point I'll make. I did
Yeah.
talk to Councilman Brandt. He is perfectly fine with the closure at Munier. He actually has some family that's been injured at that intersection, so he very much is in favor of that. The only thing that he wanted to bring to others' attention was, like Grant was saying, the increase in possibly 31st. So we will continue to monitor that. And his main concern was actually southbound and adding a turn lane there to turn left. And so we'll continue to monitor things. And if we see a change in traffic patterns, that's where we're then, okay, we need to add a left turn bay on different things. And we're always doing that everywhere. But that way we can use the data to inform us of what changes need to occur.
I got one more question. Go ahead. One more question. On 44th Street, so we now have signals at 22nd and at 31st. And you talk about maybe future geometrics at 44th. When you're talking about that, does that mean a possible stoplight there? Or what's going to be the criteria on when and if or ever that will be a stoplight at 44th? Because you're kind of going about every 3/4 of a mile down the road.
Yeah, so there's warrants that we look at, obviously, for a signal, but we're always going to look at all the tools in the toolbox. So is a high-speed roundabout a better alternative than a signal? It's going to score better for points for funding, but we have to look and see what makes sense. 35th also eventually will be extended, and that will be another entrance onto 100 as well. So that'll be another alleviation when that happens as well. So there's a lot of things that could happen in that. We have to look at too, roundabouts aren't always the solution. But if it's too close to others, that it doesn't then function correctly. So like Albernet Road, for example, when we did that, we did a traffic study to determine, is it roundabouts, is it signals? So we're not going to just say it's automatically going to be a signal. We're going to do a full-blown study that will come back and present that information when we feel we're ready.
Good. All right. Appreciate that update. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Seth with an update regarding the Aquatic Center project. Go ahead, Seth.
As part of our commitment to come monthly with updates in regards to this project, I'm here to speak about the work we're currently doing. We met with the Aquatic Center Steering Committee last Monday, really to highlight the 3 tracks that we're currently on. Our general focus was track 1 and track 3. Where during the meeting, we worked on a prioritization of some aquatic amenities. The exercise really took place. This was amenities that came from our feasibility study that the community put into a survey of what they wanted to see as part of the aquatic center. We took those amenities and showcased it as part of the project that we currently show. But as we were looking at these tracks from phasing and looking at replacement at Willowwood, we want to prioritize those amenities. So we categorize them to small, medium, large based on scope, cost. And we did a voting exercise with the committee where they had to select from each board 2 essential, 2 important, and 2 do not include. From the results from that, from the committee, we got a strong preference from family-oriented amenities. Lazy River was ranked really high. We also had water slides, zero depth, and some toddler features as some of the highlights. Competition lap lanes was a lower item. They preferred, lap lanes from like having 4 to 2 lap lanes, so we could still have lap swimming, but not necessarily competition. Diving platforms, and then some of those specialty items from wave pool, obstacle course, water walks, those ranked lower as a result of that. From this, we'll use this to really help do the work. And what we're showing is not a conceptual for it, but what we could potentially do at Willowwood. These are existing pools from Water's Edge that we're just plopping onto the property to show some different characters of what can be done. And so this is where that prioritization really takes place. This is a body of water that shows zero entry, lap lanes, and water slides. That's more of a neighborhood style pool, smaller in nature. We show a different one that's similar in size from a square footage to our existing pool at 13,000 square feet, but it shows a different character with lazy river, lap lanes, a kid pool. And then we should also show a larger feature too that is nestled in there. This is work that we would do with the committee to apply this. From the committee, we'll look at sizing capacity and those features as part of it. But it's really getting down to what is the prioritization that the community is looking for amenity side of things. So we will look at, from the results, we will look at the Willowwood site constraints, and that goes for the industry standards as far as understanding what size our community needs from a square footage, parking. We'll evaluate the phasing opportunities. We'll develop a concept. And then we'll also look at the existing plan and refine it and bring that to council. There is no action today, but we are just letting council know and seeking alignment with the process that we're currently following. We will follow back up in a month, and really the work that we're doing with the committee is looking at Willowwood and doing evaluation of that character and sizing as we're looking at those amenities, incorporating those into the Willowwood design. Any questions?
Go ahead, Grant.
So, Seth, I even hate to admit this, but one of the things that I learned about Willowwood is it's basically a large L-shaped property with a portion of it that goes to the south.
Mm-hmm.
How, as you're developing this concept, how is that southern reach of the park property being factored into this modeling? Or is it too early to even ask the question?
You know, it's a little early. And that's part of the exercises that we'll be doing next is really looking at that site for the constraints, because that is a constraint because it does go downhill. It's surrounded by neighbors, and it's also the where the stormwater exit into the creek.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. So too early to ask.
Yeah.
And I expose the fact I was ignorant of the park.
No, I was going to ask the same question because when we did tours of other aquatic centers, gosh, that's been a number of years ago since we did that now. But I mean, the lazy river stood out as one of the top priorities and attractions at those aquatic centers. So, and again, I think they all came out and basically our conclusion was the larger we can make the lazy river, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So if that somehow extends to that south end, possibly you can work it in, possibly you can't, but take a look at it. The one question I have is it looks like you're losing a few members on your steering committee.
Yeah.
Do you need to be adding a few more to get good numbers or good representation?
We still have 12 members on the committee. We really lost 3. 2 of them were youth council members that were there for a couple times last year, but rarely participated in the actual meetings. And so we have 12. We feel that 12 is a good number to.
Okay, if you need to add more, fine, but I saw there's a resignation.
Yes.
That was one of the agenda items. I just made me think about whether if you need some more volunteers, we'll put out a notice, but you
Yeah.
feel it's okay?
Yes.
All
Absolutely.
right. All right. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Nicole with an update regarding the Uptown Parking Implementation Task Force and the Uptown Parking Studies Strategies. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, good evening, council. So since June of 25, when the Uptown Parking Implementation Task Force was kind of established and kicked off, they've been very busy doing work. Kind of a lot has happened behind the scenes, so we want to make sure we were providing that update today. So the task force started out by ranking the 7 implement now strategies listed within the parking study. Based off of the order of priority, we're able to kind of group those into 3 categories based on the prioritization. Yep. One being signage, one being communication, and then one being a parking management consultant. This format allows us to kind of take smaller, purposeful steps that allow us to build with each step as we go. So starting off with that first one, signage, this covers both partners in parking and wayfinding signage. So with partners in parking here, that was an Uptown Main Street initiative that the city is now taking on to help formalize that program. With that, the task force has recently identified 4 properties outlined on the screen in black as the 4 properties to start as our starting point for discussions regarding the program. These 4 properties were identified due to their location as well as their previously shown interest in the program. So the blue box on the screen is the Uptown core area identified within the parking study. As you can see, 2 of the identified properties are within that core area based on the study. The other 2 parking lots are just outside the core area, but still within the study's scope area. So with this, staff has been working on a draft shared parking agreement template. We're working with our legal team as well as PDCM regarding liability. Some of the things that will be included and that we'll look at, including within those agreements, are potential for any cost sharing regarding parking lot maintenance and snow removal. That's a big kind of question on the property owner's minds. And then also signage, hours of availability, and then the liability. The other one is the wayfinding signage. So the wayfinding signage has been split into 2 different projects. The first one being the parking lot identifiers. That's the sign up on the screen on the right-hand side there. Public Works currently has 10 of these on site. They arrived last week and they will be installed in the coming weeks. So I think they're currently doing locates on them, and then those will be installed at the public parking lots. And then as part of the wayfinding signage kind of RFP that's going through the Public Works, that RFP, those submittals are due May 1st. And so within that phase 1 is the monument signage that has been discussed at council, but also the uptown parking directional arrows. And those are shown there on the left-hand side of the screen. So those arrows will help direct traffic off of 7th or 5th to help people find where those public parking lots are located. The second one is that communication aspect. So this is not a strategy within the parking study. However, with the task force, it's been a big topic of conversation. So with this, the city, along with our partners at the chamber and uptown, we're going to be working together on helping communicate out to the public as that first starting goal of where is our current inventory of public parking. With this, we're going to be doing a map update of our parking lots in the Marion Messenger. So that comes out and hits mailboxes early May, that first week of May. It'll also include an image of those parking lot identifiers to help people kind of start recognizing them, knowing what they mean, that sort of thing. With that updated parking map, we're gonna have that not only on our city's website, but our partners' websites. We're gonna be pushing things out more on social media with that parking map, the handouts of maps, having kind of those items at events as well. So when people come back to Marion, they have that idea of where to park. And then talking with Lacey with the Uptown, she'll be working with the businesses to make sure that their QR codes are updated within their shops to be showing that updated parking map. Communication is always an ongoing effort. So these are just kind of our starting points for that. And then that third one is that parking management consultant. This one kind of encompasses the other 5 implement now strategies. Some of those include locations for employee parking, time limits or time restrictions, or even monitoring kind of the utilization. Like I said in the beginning, by kind of chunking things down, we're able to make a few adjustments, see how things are occurring, and make those small kind of building steps and work off the progress that we make. With this parking management consultant, it was brought up at the January work session for the budget work session and is included within the budget being considered on Thursday. So next steps, we have a lot here. So kind of May, June, we'd be looking at starting those conversations with the park properties regarding partners in parking program, and the Marion Messenger hits the mailbox with those updated maps. And then the wayfinding signage RFP is due as well. We're going to also be working on that RFP for the parking management consultant. That way, at the beginning of the fiscal year, when that budget line item is ready, we're ready to get that distributed out. So looking at July, August, towards kind of the end of the summer, we're hoping to be able to bring back to council a consultant for the parking management aspect, as well as shared parking agreements for that Partners in Parking program. The big touch points for council, again, that June and July timeframe, Public Works will bring back the wayfinding signage contract is the goal. And then that July, August, we'll have that shared parking agreement and parking consultant contract kind of in front of you. And then our next update for progress that the UPIT or the task force has been working on, we're looking at November, December. Questions?
Questions?
If we can jump back to your communications plan, just an idea. I think any web-based representation of parking locations and other associated information ought to be on one website that can easily be maintained. And where I'm going with this is our partners, whomever they are, they should just merely link to that common location so that we don't have 6 different places information has to be maintained. And my assumption is the authoritative source for any of that information online would need to be the city website. That way we can easily maintain it. So if a change is made, it doesn't require anything of the partner because they're just linking to our site. Just a little picayune thing I thought of if you were talking about that. And you maybe already thought about it, and what I just said was redundant.
Sharon?
Gosh, I mean, this is such a big, say, initiative, discussion point. It seems like it's gone for quite some time, and I'm having a hard time kind of wrapping my brain around it. And that's probably me, because we hear about it all the time. And what I don't want this to become is a communication on how to go find a parking space. Because there was discussion, and I want to hear a little more about how we're working with, for one, the businesses. I will not say the name of the business because I'm very grateful for all of our businesses in Uptown because it's not an easy road for them. But when I see their vehicle parked in front of their location in a prime spot during the prime part of the day, all day long, I have a hard time not just saying, do you not get that this is where the patrons are supposed to be? And so between that and reserve spots for certain businesses that aren't even open at that time that others then can't use, I mean, where does that come into this process of working in partnership so we're not leaving empty spots that people can't use and then other people can't find places and their prime locations? I'm assuming that is a big part of this project.
Yeah, and part of that will come with that parking management consultant, helping business owners kind of realize the cost of a parking stall as well, and kind of relates back to potential time restrictions that get put in place just to help understand that scope of when you as an employee or business owner are parking in front of your location or another one, how much revenue our business is losing because that turnover isn't exactly there. So it is kind of wrapped into multiple layers. It's also just having those conversations with the businesses, building those relationships as well. Like, well, hey, we've noticed that there's an employee or someone keeps parking in front of your store. You do realize that that parking stall could potentially be costing business, because someone can't park there and it's not turning over. So part of it's that education piece with them, but it's also understanding kind of how things are being utilized out there as well.
Nicole, can I jump in too? To the other thing that the parking consultant's going to do is help us go through working with the committee or the task force of which Lacey sits on. So we have the integration with the uptown businesses through that, and we do have some business members on that. But one of the exercises that the task force will do, working with the parking consultant, is kind of looking at all the assets, all the parking assets in the uptown, and how do we designate it. So Nicole mentioned like the time restrictions. So it's not just time restrictions, but also what lots would be appropriate for employee parking. So then working on having that mechanism to make sure that we can enforce that too, to get some of those employee parking off the street in front of the businesses over into a designated area. So really better, how do we manage the assets that we have? So with the parking consultant recommendations, the implement now with the signage, just at least that way we can better communicate out where the parking assets are. Making sure people, when they're going around town and they can see, oh, we can go here or here or here. I've shared, the staff's probably tired of me talking about this, but on Friday early evening and Saturday, take my family around, and inevitably City Hall parking lot and library parking lot are open. That is available for patrons to use. This is going to be an ongoing process. That parking consultant is going to be a big part of how do we better manage the assets that we have, and then continue that evaluation.
And I think about it, I mean, I grew up working at a mall, one in a small town and then other ones, and I was not allowed to park within, behind the red lines or whatever happened. And I don't want to put people off from coming to work in our uptown, but also understanding. Also, I mean, I think there's we have to walk. We're past the days. It's a great thing that we're busy, that you're not going to likely pull up in front of the place you want to be at and get to walk on in. You're going to have to maybe walk a block or two, and that's just part of who we are. But what are also then, I'm assuming I've got two follow-ups on this. The consultant, is that also going to work then on the resident parking of the people who live above, that are living in some of the locations in uptown and where they are parking? Apartments and those that are like where we do multi-use buildings?
So the RFP hasn't been kind of drafted yet, but that's something that potentially could be included. For a lot of those residents, they do have designated parking.
Okay.
We can't tell them they can't park on a public street either, but it is something to make sure that we are aware of. That way can be considered with the parking consultant. Again, it's also the educational piece and enforcement. If time restrictions do go in, it does help with that turnover. It's also making sure that, especially when it comes to employee parking, that depending on where it's locating, employees feel safe getting there and understanding why they might not want to park in certain areas. Is it because there's overgrown bushes that someone has been hanging out in, or things like that? So it's kind of looking at that broader high scope and understanding the full picture, and then kind of identifying the things we can easily fix and things that take a little more time.
Okay.
And just really quick, I mean, with the parking consultant, working through better managing the assets, putting the regulations and obviously that all would come before council for discussion and direction. But then with any sort of law that's in place, then it becomes about enforcement. So there's going to be steps along this way, along this process, to get to a point where our police department's has the tools, and the community has the clarity and understanding of what is required. So if we start enforcing that to make sure people are parking where they need to be, that would be part of the process as well. And Councilwoman Menzer, I mean, that would get back to those that live in the uptown, where should they be parking as well.
Okay. Then my last just little snippet, did I miss? What is the timeline on this? For like
The parking consultant.
Here we go. Okay. So we're into August of this year. I feel like this has been like on the talking point of this study for so long that I'm like ready for a next step. So maybe that's just me, but I feel like it's been around. So we're pretty firm on this being
Yeah, if it's passed within the budget on Thursday, then yeah, we work towards getting that draft RFP ready for the new fiscal year. And once those go out, come back, staff reviewed, hopefully we can have that selection down and in front of council for consideration of a contract
in July and August.
by the end of the summer, yes.
But then what's the timeline we are proposing from people to have? We're getting the RFP, we're hiring somebody, right? But when do we expect this study to be like in front of us saying we are implementing these strategies? Because this is like, we're years into this conversation.
Well, right now, so in a few weeks, like I said, Public Works will be installing those parking lot identifiers. So that is a part of kind of the wayfinding aspect of this study. So things are slowly rolling out. There's been a lot of work on the back end, but things are happening.
Yeah, I think that's the parking study that was done. That helped inform in getting up the parking task force. So the parking task force has only been up for how long now?
Almost a year.
Yeah, so getting that up and running, there's been a couple meetings where we didn't have a quorum and we had to cancel. But a lot of the implement now, I mean, just updating the maps, doing the RFP for the engineering for the signs, as well as, because the other thing too is the wayfinding signage. The council's direction was to do the monument signs. So that was kind of the focus that we did. And then as the parking committee got up and running, the wayfinding signs and the implementation of that in the uptown. So there's been a lot of things that have been happening behind the scenes to get to this point. The other thing too that I think everybody has to be aware of is that we have 3 large construction projects going on in the uptown. And that is one of the things that is absorbing a lot of the parking at this particular moment. We got Bell Tower Lofts, we got Hoth Flats, and we've got Broad and Main on 6. So there has been a lot of contractor parking that has been taking up a lot of the public parking. So we all understand a sense of urgency, and we've been working as quickly as we can to get all the things in line so we can get to the point of getting this parking consultant on board and kind of help facilitate those conversations with the task force.
Kate.
Yeah, I just second everything Sarah said. She was kind of reading my mind on that one. I was going to say some of that. Can you go to the other timeline, the next like up? So that's the uptown. Is that the acronym for the task force? November, December. I guess again, same with the timeline. I understand things are happening in the background. We're doing studies, processes. But November, December just kind of feels kind of late for an update from the task force, because how often do they meet?
Ideally monthly, but sometimes we
We've
don't
had
have
that
quorum.
problem with.
Figured with the other touch points coming in front of council, in November, December, we'll kind of start getting some of the other things kind of rolling was the thought there.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just still a little lost or a little confused on like what, like, if we have a consultant, what's the task force doing in that time? Like, how are they working with the consultant? Like, what is their job in the meantime while the consultant's doing their work?
Yeah, a lot of it is conversational of helping understand. There are business owners that are on the task force, so understanding their concerns from an employee aspect of why their employees don't like to park in certain locations. It's also helping identify where to be starting for partners in parking on those lots. So they kind of getting into some of those details as well, whereas they don't have the wheelhouse that a parking consultant would have to say, well, a parking stall for your area costs this much. This is why we need the turnover. But they help identify kind of the locations of knowing the community and where their employees are parking or people are parking.
Sure. Is quorum continuing to be a problem with that task force?
Not typically. We've had a couple issues here and there, but not typically.
Yeah. Yeah. And this no AIU, just want to state it for the public record. Like when people join a committee or task force, I understand we have busy lives, but this is a really important one and something we've been doing for a couple of years now and something a lot of people in the community have commented about, cared about. So if you join a city commission or committee, it is your responsibility to show up as best as you can. That's all. Thank you.
So in the November, December timeline you have there, Nicole, is that when we would expect a report or update as well from the consultant? Would that be
At this time,
completed at
sure.
that time frame, or you're not sure yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So question I would have when we're working with this consultant, a lot of what you have presented is what I would call short-term or near-term changes, which hopefully will identify and benefit this area. Because myself, probably like everybody else up here, this is still one of the most, one subject where we probably get the most communication and comments from, especially when we're at farmers market or we just talk to people. It's still the one I get the most comments about. So how it progresses and how it moves along is of a lot of importance. So when we work with the consultant, when we talk about longer term changes, will he be addressing some of those as well? Because I think, and I'm not proposing or suggesting I support either one of these, but obviously if you look long term, you talk parking meters, you talk parkades, is at least the evaluation of areas like that going to be part of the consultant's responsibility or areas he's going to look at, he or she's going to look at?
We do have within the study implement as able and then implement as conditions merit as well. So the task force is really focused on the implement now, those shorter, nearer term elements. The study does have the kind of medium length and then the longer term, it does call out parking meters, things like that in there. It's something that I'm sure will be discussed with the working consultant. Again, we haven't started drafting that yet, but it's definitely something that we're going to look into fully what we're going to want them to be covering.
Okay.
Just really quick, I mean, the parking consultant funding becomes available July 1st as part of the upcoming budget. So the work that the staff is going to be doing on preparing the RFP is going to be leading up to so that we can have it issued and ready to roll July, August. So shortly after the start of the fiscal year.
Okay. Any other questions? Grant?
Couple of just thoughts on this. You know, we have the historical conversation regarding parking around Hoff Flats, Bell Tower Lofts, and Broad Main on 6. I mean, we had a lot of conversation and thought that was applied to those projects. Waiting in the wings, we have whatever will happen with the in the time frame with redevelopment of the old library site. As I think about your overall schedule, it seems to me validation of thoughts around the existing projects, continued development of thinking about what the redevelopment of the library site would be, as well as taking advantage of, I'll say, observational opportunities that happen with main events in the July through September timeframe, maybe even into October. Those elements of consideration really suggest to me, I would hope that we could find a way to accelerate the procurement of consultant services sooner rather than later. And I don't know how that fits. I know, Ryan, you just said that it's July 1, new budget. Mm-hmm. That's where the money lies.
Yep.
I would hope that we can move fast enough in the procurement activities for those services that on July 5th, they're on the scene, taking a look at everything that we want them to look at. I think Sarah expressed it. I think we've all taken commentary about the whole parking situation. Part of it is perception. Part of it is real constraint. I just think that moving faster and being able to really garner, again, observational opportunities here as through our summer and fall events is going to be critical to informing our longer term solutions. So
that is the goal. And trying to, programming it in along with all the other projects and programs and customer issues. So we hear you. That is the focus and that's the goal. And that's why once Thursday hits, staff's going to be transitioning into drafting that stuff. So.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, we'll now move into the agenda, and we only have 2 items marked for presentation. The first one is D3 on page 5. Is there any items prior to D3 that anybody wants to bring up for comments or discussions? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the highly important D3 item. Mike.
Yeah, so D3 is our star that Aaron talked about earlier. So this is ICAP, or Iowa Clean Air Attainment Program funding. So what this includes is an ATMS, because we're going to continue with our acronyms tonight, Advanced Traffic Management System. So the easiest way I can explain that is all of our signals currently have a computer system that tells them how to operate. All those computer systems are individual. So one signal is not talking to another. What this is a system that would be then housed at Public Works, that all that information comes into Public Works so we can work on things like coordination, so that when you hit a green light and you start progressing to the next signal, we can have those signals coordinated. So by the time you hit the next light, it can also have a green light. Now that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to do that, but that's the step that we need in order to have them actually communicate. It also includes adding components to the Highway 100 corridor traffic signals, replacing some of the controllers and detection along Marion Boulevard. There are 5 signals that we have that are not currently looped into our fiber network. So we have 2 fiber networks. We have one that is for our facilities like you're in here now. The others are a fiber ring, so it connects all of our signals, and then we can bring them back into that centralized system. So ultimately, the goal is to reduce vehicle delay, travel times, and then providing that opportunity for the traffic signal coordination, better timings on that. So we are recommending, this is for consideration on Thursday, but we are recommending taking the grant for $653,840 to make those improvements.
So Mike, does this mean that when I'm sitting at 10 o'clock at night, I'm sitting on Highway 100, wanting to turn left or north on 31st Street, my light is red, there's nobody within a half mile of me, but do I still have to be sitting there for 2 minutes before I can turn left? Will that be eliminated?
So that necessarily isn't have to do with the ATMS system, but us going in and fixing the timing. So the timings of a signal typically need to be updated every 3 years because traffic patterns change as businesses change, as new road networks are changed. And so depending on that signal, if it's a loop, whether it's a camera, is it working properly? So there's a lot of that we need to dive into.
So potential for improving traffic flow.
It will improve.
Will improve traffic flow. All right, questions? All right, thank you. We now have D, the next item to discuss is E1. Does anybody want to discuss D4 through D7? All right, Nicole, you're up again.
So the applicant is seeking a sidewalk deferral for 3098 Duckhorn Cove adjacent to Lucor Road. Per their letter of request, they have safety concerns with installing the sidewalk. So at the north end, there is an 18-inch storm outlet located there, and then it transitions into a ditch. So Lucor Road, partway along The property here does switch from that urban cross-section with curb and gutter to a rural cross-section. So north of the property requesting the deferral, there's about 1,200 linear feet of no sidewalk there, where the Hunter's Gulf Ridge Golf Course maintenance building is located, and then they've got 2 stormwater management areas there. Per the MOA for the Hunter's Ridge Golf Course property in this area, Lucor Road would have to be upgraded to an urban cross-section with that curb and gutter to require them to install their sidewalk. So with kind of the longer-term aspect of Lucor Road being upgraded and the concerns for safety of someone stepping off of the end of the sidewalk there on this property, the applicants are requesting the deferral at this time. With any sidewalk deferral, council does have the opportunity to request a resolution of necessity that would require that sidewalk to go in. So due to the reasonings for this, staff is in favor of the applicant's request.
So in looking at your picture, clearly there's no sidewalks to the north of this property.
Correct.
And I can't remember how far south there's sidewalk. Does it go quite a bit south before you hit sidewalk as well?
Yep, sidewalk is on the other side of the street. They're on Duckhorn
Right.
Cove.
Okay,
And it goes a distance.
okay. All right. Questions or comments on this? Sarah?
When I first saw this on the agenda, I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm over the sidewalk deferrals in the community. As I see it and I look at it in more depth, only because I know what's north of there, that you're literally going to the golf course, if I'm looking at my map correctly. But do I say, okay, with the deferral? Because I think we end up, if you continue on there, it's like the maintenance road, right, for the golf course?
Correct.
Is what I'm seeing on the map. So I'm like, okay, or the cart path or whatever it happens to be. I'm just going to request that, we keep these deferrals to a minimum. And because I also look at this and say, what's just north of here? A park. It's on the other side of the road, but we're going to put in a park. And we have no sidewalks on either side of the road. So feel like we're piecing some of that together, and sometimes we do have to look long-term in how we're planning for putting that park in. And as I look at the map, there's not a sidewalk on either side of the road. So I'll agree to this, but I have a feeling this will be back on a discussion point the minute we're talking about the park.
Yeah, I think it should be noted that on Lucor Road, further south towards the bridge, we are putting in a side path there on the east side of Lucor. So that work is now being started. So that path is on the east side. So I'm just projecting that as this goes forward, that'd probably be the prominent path for a side path is on the east side of Lucor going further up. We'll see how that happens, but that's just an observation. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Nicole. So that is the last item marked for discussion. Are there any other items on the rest of the agenda that anybody wants to discuss? Okay, seeing none, it is time for closed session.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adjourn to closed session regarding real estate transactions as permitted under section 21.51J of the Code of Iowa.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn to closed session under section 21.51J of the Code of Iowa. Can we get our legal statement, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the proposed subject matter for the closed session and find the same to be appropriate under Iowa Code, section 21.51J.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Mr. Miskman?
Yeah.
Mr. Uniman?
Yeah.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Ms. Menzer?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Okay. We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you.